Hello, welcome to this special edition of Talking Europe. This week we're taking a special focus on farming and the well-being of farm animals. We're going to be discussing that with members of the European Parliament in just a few minutes. But first, take a look at this special report from our team.
J'ai décidé de renforcer encore les mesures pour réduire nos déplacements et nos contacts au strict nécessaire.
Les bars et les restaurants resteront fermés jusqu'au 20 janvier.
This video is no ordinary animal abuse exposé. It's an alarm, a warning of the link between zoonotic diseases like COVID-19 and industrial agriculture. It's one of the latest creations from L214, a hardline animal rights group at the forefront of France's growing animal welfare movement, ready to shock in order to get attention.
If the images are shocking, it's because the reality itself is shocking. Today, 80% of animals slaughtered in France come from factory farms.
L214's gut-wrenching images are collected in groundbreaking investigations. Live chicks sent through grinding machines, piglets slammed to death, the brutal practices and dismal conditions of factory farming laid bare for the public to see. One thing the group maintains they are not is anti-farmer.
France is lacking a bit of political courage to face facts. To tell the factory farm lobby no, we're stopping this, and it will be better for everyone, including farmers.
The European Commission has singled out France for failing to meet standards over mutilation practices like cropping pigs' tails, where little has changed since 2016, and for breaking regulations on cage size for laying hens, no movement there since 2012. On animal welfare, France is not making the grade. Meanwhile, it's becoming a major public issue here, with 9 out of 10 French people considering animal welfare an important concern. That has made it a political issue. Loïc Dombreval is an MP and former veterinarian. In January, he helped pass a new law to protect domestic animals. As for farm animals, he says France is facing a lack of resources.
In fact, animals are fairly well protected by French law. There are many codes that cover them, but the simple fact is that these codes are not applied. That's absolutely certain. Today, we are clearly understaffed. Veterinarians and technicians who can carry out random inspections of livestock operations or slaughterhouses or transport companies to ensure compliance, we just don't have them. We need at least 100 more in France.
To understand how the meat and livestock businesses are adapting to changing expectations, we head to Western France. This is the heart of the French meat industry, with half the country's cows, 3/4 of its chickens, and 2/3 of its pigs, most in intensive farming operations that are also major employers.
Hi, girls.
Etienne runs a pig breeding and fattening operation he took over from his parents near the city of Rennes. For 30 years, he's tried to keep up with new regulations, halving his number of sows to give them more space. But more changes are coming.
I'm within regulations now, but they're definitely going to change. The problem is, when I started doing this, the price of pork was €1.50. Now it's €1.20. A lot of farmers are fed up. I can't wait to get out. There are too many rules. It's too difficult.
Under regulatory pressures, with prices falling while environmental and animal welfare standards rise, Etienne's only government support comes from the EU's Common Agricultural Policy, or CAP. Like many in the sector, he's struggling.
In the 80s, we chained the sows, and they suffered, it's true. Now we can't. I don't mind that. We continue to adapt. The problem is the investment and extra work required just aren't compensated.
Etienne is getting ready to retire, and he's far from alone. More than half of Western France's pig farmers are set to retire in the next 5 years. Only a quarter of their operations are expected to continue, raising serious questions for the future of the industry. As for the Common Agricultural Policy, animal welfare provisions have so far been linked to access for aid funds. But thanks to demands from Germany, the new cap goes even further. It could be the key for France to transition to a new model.
There's not much aid funding for pork and poultry production. You have to link the renovation of buildings to welfare criteria. You have to say that you're eligible for investment because you're increasing the associated welfare criteria. The second thing is that if reducing the number of animals per square meter means your production costs go up, then you can compensate those costs with cap aid, which are annual payments. So these are the two areas where we can work.
Those funds could be used, for example, to help farmers who go organic, like Jeremy. 3 years ago, he moved to the region around Nantes to revive a former cow and chicken farm that he now uses for organic pig farming.
They finished eating what we fed them this morning, so we're giving them more for the evening.
It's an operation with 60 sows and some 800 pigs in total, all living in straw with outdoor access. It goes above and beyond EU standards. The sows raise their young without barriers. No hormones, no antibiotics, no GMOs, no unanesthetized castration. A unique prototype in France, and one that's benefited from cap aid since its debut. At Jeremy's farm, each animal is tracked via an electronic chip, weighed and fed automatically several times per day based on the data gathered.
All this doesn't really save time. It's just that my work is different. There's a lot of observation. It's still productive. The observation is real work. The better we look after them, the better the animals do. There's less illness because we've anticipated problems that could become disease, things like that. I think our animal welfare is top of the line.
Some of Jeremy's output is sold through a collective, the rest through direct sales. Domestic organic pork with high animal welfare standards makes up just 1% of the French market. That market grew during the first lockdown, but is now shrinking again amid the coronavirus crisis. The freedom to go outside, like Jeremy's pigs, ranks high among animal welfare criteria. It's also a core value at Poulet de Louet, a cooperative of 1,100 farmers, including Carol, a former banker who took over a farm previously run by her parents and her grandparents. The cooperative was a pioneer in both free-range and non-GMO labeling. Its new label, Animal Welfare.
We'll start with the chickens.
The label has specific requirements developed with animal welfare groups. The key, regular inspections, including a yearly interior visit.
New straw every day or every other day?
When they need it.
We have inarguable science now. This is reproducible in any other farm in France and Navarre, and maybe even at the European level. There are red marks, orange marks, and yellow marks. A red mark, that's game over if it's not respected. The quality of the bedding, enough to eat and drink. It's part of the criteria for welfare, and it's important.
A plan for European animal welfare labeling was recently approved by EU agriculture ministers. Its implementation is still being studied. But France's new label may soon spawn a host of imitators.
The animal welfare label is found on the price sticker here. You've got the breeding information, and this is from Carol's place. There's also the farming method, this little image for free range. The words animal welfare on a label are meaningless, but with this sticker, you've got all the info.
The European sticker is expected to integrate even more information on slaughter and transport. The Netherlands and Germany have long led the way in the field, but pushed on by consumer demand, the French label is now close behind. In the 1950s, Europe's farmers were asked to turbocharge production. Now many are calling for a return to smaller-scale farming. Among them, Jocelyne Porchet, an authority on animal welfare. A one-time goat farmer and former pig farm employee, she is now a full-time researcher and author. For her, current regulations are less about animal welfare than the demands of agrobusiness.
This idea of improving animal welfare, we're putting animals in industrial situations. and saying we're going to watch out for their well-being. It's just not possible. It's not an industrial object. It's like the law says, a sensitive, intelligent, affectionate, social, moral being. It's not a car and it's not a shoe.
Changing the model. That's what this farm is trying to do with its traditional organic operation near France's Atlantic coast. Sustainable on a human scale, no more than 50 cows.
That's a good girl.
During the winter, the animals stay inside. The rest of the year, they graze in protected marshland. Each cow has just one calf per year. The breed, the Maréchine, was nearly extinct 40 years ago. Today, it's on the way to recovery.
Hello, sweetie. I couldn't see myself in a factory farm with miserable animals. No. My first objective is the well-being of my animals on the farm. They produce what they can produce, we take what we can take. But above all, I want them to be content.
Ludivine and her partner try to keep everything in-house. They're now hoping to do their slaughter on the farm as well. For them, as for many, sending their animals away to the slaughterhouse is a traumatic experience.
I let them leave in that truck. I tell them, sorry girls, I don't know what's going to happen to you now. It's not up to me anymore. I find that terrible. So to bring the deaths of these animals back to a human scale, not an industrial one, being able to do that on the farm would just be better. Not to mention all my clients who really expect their animals to be treated well right to the end. Yes, that would make everyone feel better.
On-site slaughter via a mobile apparatus managed by a slaughterhouse to reduce stress on both animals and farmers. The plan would serve more than 200 small farms in the region. New methods of raising, feeding, transport, and slaughter. An entire agricultural model could be subject to change with the new CAP, so that animal welfare might, in the future, be bound up with the well-being of both farmers and consumers.